Let's take the first
So,
stab.
Coach, what's kind of the intent of this spring practice? Are you guys really digging into a full install here, getting guys loose and together? What's kind of the preparation for the spring?
Absolutely. We are expecting our players to really immerse themselves in our offense, defense, and all aspects of our special teams, while also just trying to understand what it takes to really achieve at the level that we're asking them to achieve. There's a standard that I hold myself to, and I expect them to hold themselves to a similar type of standard, and that's a big part of what practice is all about, having those standards and seeing if we can come up to those standards each and every day.
We could hear kind of some of those standards being echoed at practice in the early portion. I'm just wondering, how do you know when to echo a specific way that you're doing something with some players and different with others, and how do you want to make sure that kind of gets delivered, especially early on?
There's no question. These young men have been met with love from me and my staff, and that's the key. They know without a shadow of a doubt that we love them. Had one of them go into Scott Barnes' office and said, "Hey, I think I've gone through the hardest thing that I've ever gone through over this winter. And guess what? I know Coach Shep loves me." Well, that was told to me, so hopefully. And so, no doubt that's how we start with our program, and then that allows you and gives you the opportunity to coach them harder because they know that it's coming from a place of love. It's not coming from a place of disrespect. I'm very clear with our staff. We're going to coach them hard, okay, but we're always going to coach the action, what they're doing versus making it personal and about the player. And so, there's some fun times out there, okay? There's a lot of energy out there, but it's all for a purpose of letting the player know this is a standard. Hey, perform at this standard.
So your first practice as a head coach, how is it different than being a position coach?
There's no doubt about it. I didn't get to the D-line during the walkthrough or the linebackers, okay? And that bothered me. I didn't get a chance to get to them during the walkthrough, so I definitely was intentional about being with them more frequently throughout the rest of the practice. And so that was the hardest part, really, just making my presence felt, throughout each and every position group. Beyond that, I trust our coaching staff, so I know what they're capable of. It was great to see Coach McIntyre out there. He was all fired up, man. Love seeing his energy out there. He's very cerebral in his approach, and then to see that energy come out during the practice, I really enjoyed it. But for the first time, just having to touch every single person, I think I did, but I'll probably miss somebody.
Speaking of Coach McIntyre, as a first-time head coach, how valuable is it to you to have then a long-time veteran coach like that to bounce ideas off of and such?
Absolutely. I love that he comes in every day with a low ego. That's the man that he is, but he's going to produce at a high level. So the things that he's going to say are going to be high-level things. And so he doesn't approach any of it with a, "Coach, you should do it. Hey, this is just a suggestion." I love his approach to how he's helped me through everything. And guess what? No, I've used a lot of it. And so that's the essence of me having the same attitude, just coming here with a low ego. 4 months ago, y'all didn't know who I was. Most of the people here in Corvallis had no idea that I would be the head football coach here. Now I'm supposed to have all the answers. I feel like I do a pretty good job of leaning on the people that I trust to help me find the right answers.
Coach, kind of just talk about the benefit of this week. It's a little interesting to have 1 week, then you guys break for spring break and finals and wrap up in April. What can you kind of accomplish when you still don't even have the full complement of guys that you'll get maybe when April starts?
Well, I think that this week gives us an opportunity to see what we do have. And so we're really finding out what our players can do from a football playing standpoint. We're not a cross-country team. We're not a weightlifting, powerlifting team. We're a football team. So if I hadn't seen any of these guys play football prior to the break, then guess what? We got a few extra spots that are open where we could acquire other guys. And so being able to see them practice now allows us to know, hey, this is where we might be a little bit deficient. This is where we might need a little bit of help. Let's go find some help in this area, and we can get it done over this spring break.
How many are you looking to add to the roster?
Not a ton. I don't have an exact number, but it varies just because there's a lot of changes that are going on in terms of roster limitations, and so on and so forth, and how you're going to design the roster. The whole idea and concept of just 85 guys on scholarship is kind of it's different now, and so I don't want to go through the full gamut of what that looks like right this moment, but I'm not 100% sure, but it won't be a ton.
Speaking of the roster, one of the names that kind of sticks out to me was Malik Murphy deciding to stay here and give this chance. I'm just wondering, what were the conversations you had with him? Obviously, you had an opportunity to transfer, decided to stick around and give this a chance. What gives you the confidence that you can believe that he can have a bounce-back year this season?
Never once did Malik come in my office and even mention the idea of transferring. Not once. He was a consistent leader all throughout the transition. As other guys are coming in and delivering the bad news that they're going to go other places, or other guys are just leaving the program, he was a constant and had guys out there working out, catching balls, doing all kinds of great things. He never wavered in any way, shape, or form throughout the time that I've been here with him. So proud of him, excited for him to compete his tail off against the other guys that we got here. And he always knew it was going to be a competition, and we never wavered in that regard either. It was never going to be we were just going to have an incumbent. No, they were always going to compete, and that's the program that we are building here at Oregon State. We want to create an environment where everybody's competing for their spot, and the more we're able to do that, then the better this football team will become.
Just kind of building off what you said earlier about the off-season workouts, how much would you say you and your staff challenged all these guys in just the areas that maybe we can't see beyond just the videos that work its way to us on social media in the off-season? Oh
no, we challenged them in every way that you could physically, that's for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. It was definitely a challenge for them to understand from a conditioning standpoint, from a strength and conditioning standpoint. You guys got to remember, we were behind the 8 ball when we got here because they didn't make it to a bowl game. So those were practices that they didn't get a chance to practice at. They weren't lifting. The staff was gone pretty much at that point. So we just were behind the 8 ball. And so we didn't get a chance to really get our hands on them until they got back here in January. And so that's a lot of development that you're missing an opportunity to do. So we had to really push the envelope from the beginning, and we did so. We challenged them, and told them where they were deficient in strength, speed, all those things. But then we challenged them mentally. We wanted them to have a mindset where they just were trying to continuously improve in every facet of this game. And I'll tell you this, they met the challenge. But most importantly, we challenged them to get closer as a football team. For them to get closer and tighten down and make it all about us, And so I'm proud of them in that regard. I feel like we got a closer football team, I told them the other day that they're fragile, and they didn't like that. They didn't like it at all. Sure. But ultimately, we are here to supplement that and make sure that we stay tight and strong. We built a unity council. I think they're doing a great job understanding leadership and how to lead. That's been, that's been one of the best parts of what we've done here. That leadership council, they are really dialed into doing anything in their power to make this team better.
Can you share who's on that council? Or not yet?
I would, but I don't want to forget somebody. No. But what's cool is this. I'll say this: the Unity Council decided to vote Dylan Lane onto the Unity Council. So it was all comprised of guys who had been here before. Carson Boschman was on it. Takari Hickle's on it. There's a bunch of guys on, and they voted on Dylan Lane. And the humility of that for a guy who had just gotten here, and them to say no. I didn't have to coax them or anything. They said, no, this guy needs to be a part of this. So, again, that moment was pretty special to me, and I know that that's going to impact this football team for a long time.
One of the things we look forward to today is seeing the roster with the eligibility being kind of squishy right now. There was a name like Gabe Milborn the tight end, who, when we last were here, didn't really expect to see him at spring football. How do things like that play out? And is Gabe a firm yes for next season?
As of right now, no, he's not. And so we're still working through that right now. We're waiting for a response, and hopefully we get that response sooner rather than later. He's done an outstanding job of basically making himself available, tough, and physically prepared for whatever is next, whether it's still here at Oregon State or elsewhere. And you know what? He also was voted onto the Unity Council, and so it says a lot about him, the way he has handled this whole situation. I'm super proud of him, and I hope that it goes in his favor. He wants to be a part of this football team, and hopefully get an answer as soon as possible.
What were your thoughts on seeing the first Pac-12 schedule, and your thoughts specifically on that kind of flex game at the end?
Respect all, fear none. That's our program motto. Respect all, fear none. So whoever's on the schedule, that's who we're going to play. I just don't think we have much say in what that looks like. Just play whoever's on the schedule.
You got 11 coaches on staff, 10 can recruit. Who's the 11th out of that group who won't be on the road recruiting for you guys?
That is another decision that hasn't been made finite, because we have the ability to have certain people out on the road right now, and then it switches over during the summer. We can change who that's going to be. So a lot of that's going to be predicated on, hey, who's been on campus and who hasn't been on campus as far as the recruits that we're after right now. So we're waiting to make that decision when it's find out. I got an idea of what that will be, but again, that's a moving target, and I don't necessarily have to make that decision right this minute.
Following up with the last, is Jacob Schuster in the same spot as Gabe, or has he been approved for that extra year?
Jacob is good to go.
Okay.
We're rocking and rolling with Jacob.
And Nick Norris, too?
As of right now, I'm not 100% sure on that one either. So some of these, I get it, I'm not 100% sure on some of that, just waiting to get the information back. If I could give it to you, I'd tell you, but right now I'm just waiting to get the information back.
On that theme, just as a coach and you're trying to build a roster and these rules are like written on an Etch-a-Sketch, it feels like right now. What's it like trying to build a roster when everything is just moving out from under you all the time?
Well, it's hard to really truly make sure that you got what you need at times, but at the same time, I understand, having worked at the NCAA at one point in my career, there's processes going through that they are trying to make a decision, and although I wish they'd make it faster, it's just not happening. And so we're going to move forward in what's the best interest of the players that we have in front of us, and then if something changes, guys, I will change, and that's the essence of the life that we live. So many people are afraid of change. You have to embrace change. Adversity is coming, just so we're all clear. Okay, I said to you, there's only 3 things you're promised. Okay, death, taxes, and adversity. It's coming. So I don't really get bogged down with the idea of it not happening. Is it frustrating at times? Slightly. But I'm prepared for when the change comes. We are ready for that change to occur.
We've talked a lot about, things surrounding the program, but what were your thoughts just on the first spring practice? How do you feel like it went? Where did you feel the spotlights were? What did you just feel like as a whole this first practice ended up going for you guys?
Yeah, I thought our offense really started really fast, which is one of our pillars within building a program. Start fast, the middle 8, and then finish strong, And I think our defense really actually finished really strong in this practice. They came on really a ton of energy at the end of the practice, and that carried them for that last team period. I felt like our quarterbacks were completing the ball really well down the field today. It was good to see some of those balls go in the air. I think that's what people like to see. But I also thought our running backs did a good job of finding creases and holes. I thought that was outstanding. I thought our linebackers today showed their ability to really plug the holes that we need them to be in and be elite at understanding their fits. I thought that was really outstanding. And then our edge rushers, I thought, and we don't have a ton of them, but the ones we do have, they held up pretty well. And so there was no glaring piece of what we did today that I'm walking away from this practice feeling like we're severely deficient in any way. But I do think we have to get better in a lot of technical things right now. You know, we got a lot of guys right now who think it's okay to not step with their right foot when they're supposed to step with their right foot because they think they can recover. But you can't recover when you're trying to go where we're trying to go as a football team. No, there will be no recovery there. So we got to be technically sound as a football team.
Anything else? Thank you, Coach.
Thanks,
Thank
Coach.
you, guys.